Welcome back. Time now to talk about Titan. The company posted a good set of Q1 earnings. The revenue has come in line with estimates, and there's been a beat on the EBITDA and net profit front. Further, gross margins have expanded to a 5-quarter high for the company. Ashok Sonthalia, who is the CFO of Titan, joins us now to talk about the numbers. And just in general, has the sentiment improved compared to the last time we chatted? Ashok, good morning, and thanks so much for joining us. I wanted to ask a little bit about how the market is doing, because things seem to be coming back. Demand has come back. Cases have gone down. But have we gotten back to pre-pandemic levels? And if yes, what does the growth trajectory look like according to you over the next couple of quarters?
So, hi, good morning, and thank you for having me here. Yes, the kind of steep wave 2 we have seen, and after that the recovery also has been quite steep, and sometimes on a pleasant surprise, we were also having when we were looking at the numbers ourselves. I would say second half of June, when the recovery started happening very quickly with the lockdown lifting gradually, and that trajectory is continuing. Now it has gone from recovery to growth side of it. Like for certain category, particularly for jewelry, we see now we are in the growth zone as we are progressing compared to pre-pandemic level. Other categories of the company also are smartly recovering, and they are kind of reaching towards 80-90% recovery level. So it's quite healthy. Demand could be combination of many things. It could be pull forward demand. It could be the missed events demand, which are now coming up. We are seeing a lot of birthday, anniversaries kind of events which could not be celebrated. They are now kind of being come. And people are pulling forward also some of the purchases. So it's a mix of many things, but at this point of time, demand seems to be strong.
Okay, that's good to hear, Mr. Sonthalia. So just a little more color on this, because you have told us earlier that the current year, FY22, is going to be better than FY20. We're all, of course, leaving out FY21. But how much better? So on a full year basis, will your sales improve by 5%, 10% over FY20?
We of course said that we will be better than FY21. But whether we will be better than FY22, I don't think we made a specific comment on that, but we are definitely gunning for that. And at this point of time, it is our aspirations, and some of the early signs seems and suggest, while Q1 still was better than last year Q1, but is still much lower than the Q1 of FY20. So from that point of time, we need to cover that ground first and then think about better than FY20, but we are certainly gunning for that.
I think, Mr. Sonthalia, at the end of the day, demand is in no one's hand, right? You don't know which way the third wave is going to go. You don't know what your growth would be. But what is in your control is costs. You've managed to bring down costs quite a bit. But tell us any more levers that you have of cost control. If yes, how much and how could it impact your margins?
So we had been talking about, during FY21, our War on Waste program, which started actually in FY20 before pandemic, but it kind of helped Titan very quickly align its cost improvement levers. And that had two components. There were certain sustainable things and certain discretionary or situation-induced things like the travel and energy cost and all those kind of things. So some of the sustainable things are working and continuing for us. Some of the things, which were there last year, we kind of rolled back. We not only restored our salary to everyone, this time we have given increments and promotions, etc. So some of the things judiciously to keep motivation high and mood high and people working towards growth rather than kind of thinking all the time about how to keep water, head above the water. So some of the costs we have kind of increased, but other fixed costs where we can control, we are doing. We are also focusing on gross margin, which is much more sustainable thing for us. And there is a very, very structured program in jewelry business unit and watch business unit, particularly we are running, where we can look at every element. There are small things, but they create a large impact. and that program is progressing pretty well. And you see some reflection in Q1 of that.
Okay. Now, Mr. Sonthalia, jewelry is one segment where I don't know how much the digital channel can be effective, because at the end of the day, you want to go to the store, hold it, try it on, see it, and then buy it, right? So what's your store rollout strategy going to be for this year? How many stores are actually, back up fully functional? And the digital piece, I think that's where CaratLane comes in. If you can give us an update there.
So you are right. Jewelry is a high indulgence category where people wants to actually see that. But digital and omni is progressing pretty well. 2 years back, if it was a very, very minuscule for Titan, last year it kind of progressed, and this year again it is growing faster than what we have through the retail store, though on a small base. And when we talk about digital, and if you combine digital and remote, where try at home, video trial, so that customer just comes for very, very little time in the store. If you combine both online and the remote omni method of selling, then even our Tanishq is around 12%, 13% number, which we are seeing coming through that channel. You rightly said CaratLane is a online and offline, but it's a pure omni player, where now they have about 122 retail stores in 44 cities, and still largely digital marketing oriented and emerging as a very, very strong omni player in this space. As far as Tanishq store expansion strategy, we are on track. While Q1 slowed down a little bit because of COVID, we have already done, I think, 11 stores, and we will be opening 35 stores in this year, FY20.
Okay, so since we're talking about that, in your watches and eyewear segment, although the losses have gone down, it's still loss-making, both these segments on an EBIT front. And given that we don't know which way things could head, how long do you think it would take before you return to the black in both watches as well as eyewear?
So while I will speak about watches and eyewear, but if you generally look at the entire portfolio of Titan, I think it is becoming healthier. Some of the loss-making stuff where we had Power Luba and we have other small pieces, they have been kind of behind us now. CaratLane, which was growing very, very well, but they were not profitable. Last year, they became profitable, while Q1 again is a small loss, but on the full year basis, we are very, very confident that they will remain on a healthy growth trajectory as well as on a profitable growth. Within our Titan eyewear turned corners around, and then last year they were profitable. First quarter, yes, they have done, but full year basis, again, we are very, very confident about watches as well as eyewear to be profitable. There is a certain break-even level for these businesses. They have to cross that, and then after that, they create a lot of value because they are high gross margin businesses. So that barrier they must cross, and we are confident that if there is no serious disruption, they should be in black in this year as well. So overall portfolio, to my mind, is becoming better and healthier as far as Titan is concerned.
Okay, all right. We will leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the best for the quarters to come. So that is the word as far as Titan is concerned. Let's just take a quick look at the past financials. Of course, been one of the strongest stocks, has gone through its own challenging times, but largely been steady state as far as the revenue is concerned, despite the pandemic. Has been holding around that 19,000-20,000 crore mark for the fiscal. EBITDA as well, not too bad. Yes, the watches, eyewear segment has been loss-making, but jewelry has done well. And then we have the profit after tax coming up for you on your screen. FY21 has been challenging, no two ways about that. But let's get back to the market. Anuj, it's been steady state. I mean, now the Nifty is moving into the green, so true to its nature, some buying on dips. Only Bank Nifty sulking a bit today.
Yes, Sonia, today is going to be a bit of a tough day because the market's given you two back-to-back clean days, and today it's just expiry as well. So perhaps a typical Thursday could play out, and then of course we'll see. For me, the markers are very clear. The high today 16,294 and the low today 16,210. So let's see which side breaks. Mitesh Thakkar is back with us. Mitesh, morning again. Any trade on the index, or you'll go with stocks now? And if yes, what are your individual stock trades?
So, we talked about this kind of intraday dips, being bought into. We haven't done that because I was hoping that we get close to about 16,180 levels on this spot. The low today is 16,210. But yeah, holding on to the long position which we had taken 2 days back. On stock side, a couple of sell calls. MRF is a sell with a stop at 80,500 for targets of 78,800, and ONGC is a sell with a stop at 116.5 for targets of 110.
That IT is making a big comeback. For last 2 days, it's only been Bank Nifty, but the overall leader for the market still remains IT. So that's making a really strong comeback. Names like Wipro, HCL Tech, TCS among the large caps, and L&T Tech Services, Mindtree, Coforge in the broader market. All these stocks doing well right now. Well, phenomenal move for all these stocks, Mitesh. Any name that stands out?
Tech Mahindra, I think, is top of the list for the timing. I think I just saw that chart a few minutes back. Very good consolidation for last 4 days and then a breakout. I think 1225 should be the stop loss and 1320 should be the near-term target here.
Okay, Mitesh, thanks a lot for all those trading ideas. Now let's shift focus to the commodity markets from equities. Manisha, good morning. What's the commodity you're tracking?
Anuj, morning and thank you. I'm looking at the crude oil prices because that clearly has been a major mover and we've seen important chart breakdowns onto that one. Excuse me. I'm looking at 7% of decline in the crude prices right now. It's trading at a 2-week close. Good news clearly for consumer countries like India. But on charts, we are making lower highs and lower lows. We did see a break of $70 per barrel as well in the New York markets yesterday. And the NYMEX, after breaking 70 on the charts, does look slightly more weaker. Markets do tell us that if a break of 68 happens, we might be looking at 65 as well coming in for the WTI crude oil prices there. The major trigger clearly has been a built-up in the crude inventories and distillate stocks in the US markets. This has been a surprise one. Markets were readying themselves for a decline, but we have seen a very sharp increase, nearly 3.2 million barrels of an increase in crude inventories. There has been a demand from impact of spread of Delta variant. The Chinese demand has flattened and the rest of the world is looking at uneven demand. The rising COVID cases also threatened the summer travel demand. We did see the aviation and the road transport numbers increase, but as we head into August, we are looking at those numbers also declining. Also, the OPEC output has been the highest since 2020 in the month of July. That has been supportive. The only reason that you have seen support come back in prices is because Saudi Aramco statement says that there is demand improvement that they are seeing in Asia and in Europe as well. And they actually have increased the September official prices for crude for many of these countries. This is a third straight increase that they have done for the month of September. They did a similar increase for July and August as well. And September as well, they believe that there is market heading into deficit and the demand will continue to improve. So some bit of a support coming into the prices because of that. The base metal prices have increased in Asia right now, but it could be a selling opportunity is what SMC believes. They have a sell call in zinc. 242 could be targets there. They also have a sell continuing for other metals. They have chosen nickel for that. 1445 could be on charts on the lower side.
Okay, thanks a lot, Manisha, for that. So those are all the commodity cues, but we have a short break to take right now. A very interesting guest joins us on the other side. Manish Dangi of Macro Investors and Advisors join us to discuss a recent blog that he has written where he says it's time now to go underweight on Indian equities. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back with more.